Dear Doctor, today I will do my presentation too. The title is Quantile Regression Analysis of the Relationship between GDP growth and the agriculture, industry, and the service sector growth in China. And this presentation, I will firstly introduce the background. With the development of the economy, the upgrading of industry structure has become the co-driving force of economic growth. China's industrial structure has undergone a transformation from agriculture-led to industry-driven and then to service-centered. However, the role played by various sectors in economic growth at different stages is different. How to further adjust the industrial structure according to actual conditions is an important breakthrough point in exploring China's economic growth mechanism. Based on the research purpose, this study designed the following questions. The first one is what is the relationship between the growth rates of agriculture, industry, and services and the GDP growth? Is there a difference in the relationship between variables in different quantiles in GDP distribution? And there are many studies and the contribution of the various sectors to GDP growth. And this research through the literature revenue and finding the following research gaps. And the first one is there is a lack of research that use quantile regression method to analyze these relationships. The contribution of agriculture, industry, and services to GDP may vary greatly depending on the stage of economic development, and the research on this is still lacking. And then I will introduce the date. This study intends to analyze the relationship between China's economic growth rate, agriculture growth rate, industrial growth rate, and service growth rate. To solve the research question, this study used the growth rate of value added of each sector to represent the growth rate of each sector and collected data on these variables for China from the 1979 to 2023 from the World Bank. The data is time series data and the table 1 lists the variables used in this study and their detailed information, and we can see that here is GDP, agriculture, industry, and the service. And then I will introduce the model used in this research. This study first examines the relationship between the agriculture, industry, service, and the GDP using the OAS model, and the model is experienced as the equation 1. And furthermore, this study further uses the 0.25, 0.5, and 0.75 quantile regression models to examine the difference in factors affecting GDP growth rates at different growth stage. The specific model experience is shown in the equation 2, and where GDP is a dependent variable, agriculture, industry, and service are independent variables, and this beta ln, beta 1, and beta 2, beta 3, and or the coefficient, and the beta 0 is intercept. Okay. And then this study describes the variables statistically and initially identified the characteristics of the variables. Then this study must conduct the stationary t-test and variables such as the ADI test and the PP test before modeling. In this step, the variables were tested to be stationary series. After completing the data test, this study first applied OLS regression. Then the study further used the quantile regression model to estimate the parameters of the model and slows the slows the possible heterogeneity. Heterogeneity problems of the model through the bootstrap calculation to enhance the robustness of the results. After performing quantile regression and the data, the study employs the word test to determine whether the slope equality effect and symmetry equality effects of the different quantiles are statistically significant. And the following are the empirical analysis and the table 2 shows the results of the descriptive statistics of the variables, revealing the basic characteristics of the variables. Industry has the highest mean, while agriculture has the lowest mean. The standard deviation of variables are relatively small, indicating that the distribution of the variables is relatively concentrated. Among them, industry has the highest standard deviation and while agriculture has the lowest standard deviation. Except for GDP, all variables have positive skewness and the quarterness of the variables is positive. And before constructing the model for the sector variables, they study first conduct the unit root test and the variables. The unit root test includes ADF and PB, and the non-hypothesis of above unit root test is that all variables contain unit roots. Table 3 shows the results of the unit root test and the variables, and since the statistics of each test is significantly greater than the critical value. So the non-hypothesis would be rejected, and the level data of GDP, agriculture, industry, and service are all stationary. And the table 4 shows the results of OLS and the quantile regression. From the OLS results, it can be seen that the growth rate of agriculture, industry, and the service sectors have a significant positive impact on the growth GDP growth rate, and the R-square of the model is as high as 0.974, which shows the model explains about the 96.6% of GDP changes. And according to the quantile regression results, there is a positive correlation between the agriculture industry, service industry, and the GDP growth rate. This is consistent with the expected results. However, due to the different GDP growth rates, the growth rates of this sector have different effects on the GDP growth rate. And as the quantile increase, the coefficients of agriculture and industry gradually decrease. For example, when tau equals 0.25 per beta 1 is 0.212 and the beta 2 is 0.465, which means that 1% agriculture growth rate leads to a 0.1% increase in GDP growth rate. And when tau equals 0.75, beta 1 is 0.113 and beta 2 is 0.398, which means that 1% agricultural growth rate leads to 11.3% increase in GDP growth rate. And R-square of each quantile model is relatively high, which shows that the model has a certain explanatory power. As the quantile increases, the coefficient of service gradually increases, and as the GDP growth rate continues to increase, the role played by the service industry is the strongest among the three major sectors. And then we do the diagnostic test. As can be seen from the table 5, the p-value of the slope equality test is less than 0.05, while the p-value of the symmetrical quantile test is greater than 0.05, indicates there is significant heterogeneity in the model but no asymmetric effect. And this study uses the JLM and robust least square method to estimate the model, and the test results confirmed that the growth rate of agriculture industry and the service have a positive and significant GDP growth rate. And then this research concludes the key findings, and the paper aims to explore the heterogeneity of the effect of agriculture, industry, and services and GDP growth through the quantile research method. The results show that the positive impact of agriculture and industry and GDP is strong. Is strongest at the 25 percentile and the weakest at the 75 percentile. This shows that when the GDP growth rate is low, the positive effect of agriculture and the industry and GDP growth rate is greater. While when the GDP growth rate is high, the impact is smaller. This may be because at a lower GDP growth rate, agriculture and the industry will play a more fundamental role in economic growth. And the GDP growth rate increases, the role of agriculture and the industry may weaken. And in addition, the service industry has played a significant positive role in promoting GDP growth, and this effect is strongest at the 75th percentile and weakest at the 25th percentile. This shows that when GDP growth rate is high, changes in the service industry have a greater positive impact on GDP growth, while this effect will weaken when GDP growth is low. In the stage of low GDP growth rate, industry has the strongest driving effect on economic growth. In the stage of the high GDP growth rate, the service industry has played the greatest impact on economic growth. And based on the key findings, this research proposed the following policy implication, and we need to know that this research formulates the policy implication from two perspectives. The first one is the national level, the second one is the regional level, and I will give you more detailed information. The relation from in the development of industrial sector and can improve the competitiveness and the production efficiency of the industry through technological innovation, industry upgrading, and other means. At the same time, the government also needs to further consolidate the basic position of agriculture in the national economic structure and improve agricultural production efficiency. And in the stage of high GDP growth rate, the service industry contributes the most to economic growth. And the policies should focus on supporting the development of the service industry, and especially model services So we need to know the model services such as scientific and technological services. In addition, the government should also further optimize the structure of the service industry to enhance the economic added value of the service industry. However, it should be noted that although the impact of industry is relatively weakened in the stage of high GDP growth rate, just as the key findings shows. However, it is still an important pillar of the economy. So, for the development of the economic growth, we need to focus on the industry also. Okay. And from the regional level, this research proposes the implication that the local governments should formulate differentiated industry support policies according to regional characteristics in value of the different stage of economic development in different regions, because we know that in China, the development of regions is unbalanced. So for different regions, it has a different GDP growth rate. So based on this phenomenon, the government should formulate specific policies to promote the GDP growth. Okay, and for example, in areas with low economic development levels, and the government should focus on supporting agricultural and industry development. However, in areas with high economic development levels, the government should focus on supporting the service industry and high-end manufacturing. This is because that just as the finding shows, as the increase of the quantile of GDP, the service industry has a stronger influence on GDP growth rate. So in areas with high economic development levels, they should focus on service industry instead of the agriculture. However, we should know that the industry development is also important. Okay, and this research also have some limitations based on the research ability and the available ability of data. And this research in order to in response to the research limitations, this research gives future research directions. Okay, so this study first one is that the study may be limited by the time span of data, especially statistical data of earlier periods may lack accuracy or be incomparable. Second, the study did not include other key factors affecting GDP growth, such as export consumption in the analysis, because we only use the dependent variables and the independent variables. And in this research, we don't use the control variables. So, so this is the limitation of this research. And in order to solve these limitations, this research proves that the future research can be further expanded in the following directions. First, in value of regional differences in China, regional heterogeneity analysis can be introduced in the future to study the mechanism of the impact of of agriculture, industry, and the service industry in different regions and GDP growth. Because in this study we use the time series data, not panel date. So for future research, they can use the panel data to further explore the regional heterogeneity. And in addition, future research can combine more key control variables. For example, consumption exports to improve the explanatory power of the model. So all of is my presentation. Thanks.